All right, rock and roll. All right, so I appreciate everyone sticking around 4 o'clock on a Friday. I know there's a lot of better bars to be at than sitting here listening to me speak at you. So appreciate everyone hanging around. I'm going to kind of blow through these pretty quickly. Obviously, since you guys stayed till 4 o'clock on Friday, there was reasons you came here and probably challenges in your own organizations of getting funding and getting what you need. So I'd rather use the time to hear about your challenges and try and help people get through it. So a little bit about my background. I run a company that does identity and access management implementations, largely in the U.S. government. A big part of my career was spent inside of the intelligence community. I was the architect for the NRO for 5 years. I'm currently the identity and access management architect for Department of Homeland. I've been doing that for just over a year now. And really have had an ability to find funding in the government and I started with a program that was about $10 million a year, which everyone's like, holy shit, an identity access management program with $10 million a year, that's a ton of money. But for what we had to do, it really wasn't enough. And within a couple of years, grew that to be like $20 million a year and actually had enough to support global 24/7 operations, 9 sites, mission criticality, like literally satellites flying in the sky, deciding on who could take pictures of what and why, and then when those pictures came down, who could see them, right? So really cool mission-y stuff. So as I said, I'll blow through the About Us slides, but really focused on identity and access management as well as cloud competencies. We've done a bunch of customer migrations. The government spent $600 million to have Amazon build them their own private AWS. And our program was the pilot program for that. We were the first one in for the NRO because, hey, guess what? You're starting a brand new operating environment. Guess what the first thing in should be? Security. Huh. Funny. So we paid a lot of pain with that, especially since Amazon still had things like, hey, we're dialing to the oh shit, there's no internet to dial back to. And we had to tell them how to fix their stuff. So that was fun. So today, I think the biggest thing to understand about how to get funding for your organization is really understanding why we're at the point we are with IT and why the business kind of treats us like outsiders. I know many organizations where the IT organization is some other group on the side that we throw requirements at and hopefully get things out on the other end. And a lot of times we're just going to call an outside consultant and then hopefully our team will catch it at the end. So that obviously sucks for all of us. I think part of that is, sorry, I forgot to start my countdown timer. Kind of the way we've gone about IT security, right? We throw like these big things at them. Someone's going to click on a phishing campaign in 16 minutes. The smart people report it in 28 minutes. We could be fucked in 12 minutes, right? I mean, that's the type of attitudes we go into with a lot of these meetings. So some other stats, right? So a lot of people here are working for small businesses and they're the security guy, right? So 60% of small businesses go out of business within 6 months of a cyber attack. Legit stuff, right? I'm a small business too. I got 20 people and we do it for a living and I know we're vulnerable as shit, right? I need a staff of 4 people just to keep up, right? And trust me, we don't have margins to support 4 full-time security people. I know what we cost. We throw other big things, right? 48% of data breaches are by malicious acts of human intent, human error. Aftermath of security incidents cost companies almost $900,000 and then another $1 million in operations. Can your small business afford this, right? That's how we go into meetings. I don't want to work with us. It's kind of shitty. And then the other stuff we say, right? Make people your first line of defense. Patch promptly, all right? It's Patch Tuesday. We've got to have everything done by Wednesday. Encrypt your data. Use 2-factor. Manage your privilege accounts because that's how we're going to get hacked. These companies don't get it, right? They don't understand what we're saying. They don't understand the impacts. Until they get hit, we're kind of screaming into the wind. No one's going to listen to us. So, right, everything we sell is based on FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We're not really there saying, hey, what are the business problems? What are you running into, Mr. Business Person? And how can I help you do better? So, so a little bit about how we got here, and I'm actually old enough to remember some of this stuff, but this is how IT started. It was kind of weird, right? You had these dedicated rooms inside of the building with people walking around in white lab coats. It was freezing ass cold in there. Literally, we had administrators that would do nights and weekends that would store liquor bottles under the floor because it kept them cold. That was fun. Finding those when you're trying to run cable and you hear clink, 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 clink. And we're all laughing because we drank from those bottles when we found them. So you walked around with like these big stacks of punch cards and throwing them into a slot and waiting 20 minutes later and going, let's hope it came out right. 20 minutes would be lucky in most cases. And a lot of times it was like to balance the books of the bank for the night. And the bankers are like, what are these fuckers doing, right? We can do that in like 20 minutes on a piece of paper. Why do they have to do that on this stupid big machine all the time? So we were weird to begin with, right? This guy was everywhere, right? This is what the IT guys look like. We talked about C and classes and functions and literally getting physical bugs out of machines. Can you imagine this guy working next to Don Draper? It's just not going to work. We had weird things up on our boards, right? Every frickin' place I go to, that picture is still everywhere to be found. And we all laugh because it's true. But other people look at it and go, what are you guys talking about? So really, the goal, like the CIO role is only 35 years old, right? We think about the CIO in our companies today and how mission critical they are to the success of the organization. That title is only 35 years old. And their whole job was to basically be the barrier between the weird IT guys and the business, right? And bridge that gap of those people say weird things, but we need outcomes. Your job is to make sure those people deliver on time. Make sure they deliver to the budget, right? And the stuff didn't work, right? It was like throw stuff over a wall and hope it comes out good on the other end. And yes, I know my math doesn't work, but I don't know a CIO who only works 100% of the time. They all work like 80 plus hours a week, at least the good ones. So I like to think it's changed a lot, but at the end of the day, like to me, this is a sweet sock. I'd love to work here. But people from the outside would walk by and look at that and go, yep, still weird, keep going. Right? Like 3 monitors on every desk, huge ass real-time metrics. This place is cool. I will say, in the intelligence community, they have rooms that would blow this one away. There's actually some pretty cool stuff they've got. So IT was always weird. And then we'd start doing things like, let's work together, right? Let's go work with the business. And what would they do? They'd show up at the corner of the room and here's the requirements, we out. Right? They'd come with us with this huge book of requirements and say, here's our wish list, right? A lot of those things they didn't need. They would keep throwing whatever they could into it, and then we'd go away for a little while, build an awesome Gantt chart, right? And then no matter what we did, right, they don't know what IT costs. They don't know what it takes. They've never done this before. No matter what, they'd yell, right? It's too expensive. It's going to take too long. And then we have to go back and be like, well, this is what it's going to take. This is what you asked for. And we'd sit there cutting out requirements, cutting out time. And at the end of the day, nobody was happy, right? We were signing up for things we couldn't deliver. They didn't have all the features and needs that they really needed. And we'd all feel like we just dealt with this guy, whether the business guy or the IT guy. This is how it felt. So then we'd take and start doing our big project, our big waterfall project, go away for 3 months. First 3 months to be like, okay, we gotta go order servers for this new project. Yeah, Dell's gonna ship them next week. This is gonna be sweet. And then they'd show up. 3 months in, we'd actually start to get developing on them because no one had servers ready to go. VMware promised it to be faster, but most organizations still take a month to get a VM stood up. DHS takes at least 3 months right now. It's a lot of fun. So we'd sit there, we'd be working, and 4 months in, the business would get bored, and they'd be like, where's our stuff? They'd come back and go, well, we said we wanted that 6 months ago when we started this, but now we really want this thing, right? And then we sit there and go, haha, scope creep, we're fucked. And then we'd go make another one of these. And then hopefully at some point we gave them a little piece of something that they might want 20% of, and we spent a whole bunch of time on. And then, I mean, as a dev, we'd throw it over the wall. Good luck, ops. This thing's busted. And then move on, right? This is the world for the last 35 years that the business has seen us working in. We got a lot to fight. We've got a lot of attitudes to change. So how do we fix it? And right now, as much as I hate to say it, we got to use buzzwords against them, right? It's a lot of us realizing what the business is and how it works and what they want to do, and walk to them with solutions, because they're going to give us shit if we don't. So the biggest thing going on right now is this thing called digital transformation, right? Every single business is becoming a digital business, aka, oh shit, we don't know how to make money anymore. The internet's real. Nobody's going to buy a car. They're just going to rent it. Shit. We're going to own all the cars. How's this going to work? How are we going to make money? Right? So everybody, no matter what your industry is trying to transform. So we've got finance is finally coming up with APIs that all of the banks talk to each other. A decade too late, but it's coming. Businesses are looking to create new business models. They're seeing the world, they're seeing the cloud services and there's ability to remove a lot of the maintenance and operations work, right? We don't have to buy servers anymore. At the same time, it scares the shit out of all of us because anyone with a credit card can now start streaming corporate data out onto a cloud on some startup that they've only been alive for 3 months, and who knows what's secure, and I guarantee it's running off in an S3 bucket somewhere that's unencrypted and publicly available. Oh wait, authenticated available. So those won't need to, everyone should be aware, when you check the authenticated user bucket in S3, that's any authenticated IAM user for all of Amazon, not your organization. Guess what? That's how all these buckets are getting leaked lately. So, right? So from our side, though, we're scared, right? All the data's going everywhere, like I said. Everyone's getting a SaaS CRM. Everyone's buying a box, a Dropbox, an Evernote, using the Teams functionality, and all these things that we want to protect are running away from us. They're consistently trying to create usernames and passwords on solutions that aren't SSO enabled, that aren't integrated with RAD, and just getting sent to email boxes all over the place. And all we're trying to do is sit around and blacklist IPs and URLs and addresses, and never going to win. So I hate to say it, but this is the third digital transformation I've seen in my career, right? It's the same shit as it was in the 90s, as it was in the 2000s, right? We had mainframe migrations. We had IT modernization projects. That was a fun one for about 5 years. We've had Web 2.0, but there's a difference this time, right? This time we have an ability as security professionals to really enable the business and get to know them and deliver much faster, because we can get rid of all of that front work of waiting for servers, racking, stacking, networking, securing, IPing, managing the new or the operating system patches that are coming out on a daily basis. So that's what we have to go forward with. So we have an ability to turn into sunshine and rainbows, right? We're no longer the scary people, right? Everyone has a phone in their pocket. They can balance the books for their organization. As a matter of fact, all the sales guys have exactly what their number has to be, where they're at, and how they're comparing to their peers in real time in their pocket, right? Everyone's got an Amazon Echo at home. That thing's only 3 years old, but everyone's getting used to saying, hey, what's the weather today? Or, hey, how slow is my commute today? Right? IT is no longer this weird thing that they don't use. It's driving their lives as much as anything. Everyone's got a cousin or a nephew that's written an app, right? That's always my favorite. My freaking cousin could do this in 2 weeks. Yeah. What about the security controls? What about integrating into our systems? Not going to happen. But we have an ability to talk to them about it. So finally, two-factor is getting to be accepted, right? Everyone's like, hey, I open my bank app and I get a text message before I get in. That's good. We need that here. I'm like, I've been saying that for 5 years, but thank you, Capital One. Appreciate it. So they're seeing security come into their lives. They're seeing, like I've had executives say, I want Alexa on my desk and I want to be able to ask what the numbers are every morning. And I'm like, this is cute. This will be fun. But they're thinking about those things and they're saying, hey, but I need to make sure when I walk in that it knows it's me and it's not somebody else. So then you can open up a conversation with them and say, well, do you know what you're asking? Right? Do you know what that's going to take? And then they go, is all of our businesses screwed? Yeah. So the nice thing is, and I hate to say it, but we're at a point where digital transformation is forcing the businesses to change. 33% of users are expecting personalized experiences when you use when you use an organization's app. 51% of users have said they would switch banks just because they have a better app. 10% already have. So if you're in the finance industry, you basically go to the marketing department and say, hey, do we have the best app in the industry? Well, no, Capital One's kicking our ass, or US Bank's doing this thing. And I go, guess what? 10% of your customers already left, and you're still figuring out why. And the other half are thinking about it. Here's real specs. I'm not scaring them with security things. I'm scaring them with money and bottom line numbers that directly affect their business, right? And that's where we have to start thinking differently. In the next couple of weeks, there's a big thing that's going into effect called GDPR out of, I love the vertical head shakes because we've heard about it. But essentially, consumers have the right to be forgotten is what GDPR comes down to. You can say, you've got too much data on me, I want to take it away, right? And the penalties for that are conversion about $25 million or 4% of your business's gross revenue. Not profits, revenue. So, and whichever's higher. So those are numbers that scare businesses, right? $20 million would sink a lot of businesses. 4% of their revenue will sink a lot more businesses. So they know they've got problems and they need people to solve them. So if we can come to them with solutions rather than scare tactics, it's going to take us a lot further. So, and then, I hate to say it, but Facebook and Cambridge Analytica did us a huge favor as security professionals, right? We are moving into a world where the consumers have power to take it away from the businesses we work for. And they're looking for solutions to get beyond that. So we need to be able to say, we have a security platform. We know where the data goes. We know how it's being used. And when someone wants to say, I want to be forgotten, here's how we pull the plug on all of it. Oh, and by the way, here's how we disassociate that data from the person so you can actually keep the data and use it for all your marketing purposes still and build profiles for the other people that are still here, right? Right? But it's that little extra step that you have to be able to tell them. So, again, cloud services are letting us move faster than ever before, right? You look at something like the Elk Stack, right? Logstash, Kibana, and to set up a SIEM in your organization, it takes a lot of time and money, right? But Amazon pretty much runs an Elk Stack for you now, and you can just be like, ship the logs, right? And you don't have to spend money. You don't have to, well, you don't have to spend a lot of money up front, but all the infrastructure's there. It scales automatically. You start shipping more logs, more of your organization wants to go for it. You're not calling for more VMs and playing the game of predicting when you're going to need more. Amazon just goes, we got it. You don't have to worry about it. So it's giving us an ability to be much, much more effective as security professionals. Yeah, we can talk about Equifax and what they did for us, but it was all out there anyways, right? It's just the first time it was publicly attributed to a single organization. If anyone's tracked those marketplaces, all that data's been there for close to a decade. So the thing that we're going to see over the next couple of years with ConVerge Analytica, with the rise of consumers being able to basically consumers are realizing that they're the product and they own all the data to make these companies successful and have the ability to take it away. And organizations are realizing they need to build trust with their consumers. So to do that, it's really about having a platform they can trust, right? And be able to say, hey, I'm going to give you my Spotify credentials because I want to listen to my Spotify stations in my car. I need to be able to trust you that those aren't going to be stolen. I'm going to give you my credit card so when I drive through Starbucks, I can hit a button on the screen that says pay for it, and I don't have to pull it out of my pocket. But I need to trust you that that credit card number is not going anywhere. And most organizations today, they don't know where that data goes. It's held in individual siloed applications all over the place, right? And with all of the breaches going on, businesses are scared. They don't want to be the next one in the papers. Most of these organizations that have been breached in the last 5 years have lost $1.5 billion apiece in market cap, right? Equifax is of the world, the Facebooks of the world. I mean, what'd they say? Zuckerberg is now worth stupid money, like $50 billion less after ConVerge Analytica. It's insane. But nobody wants to be that because they know it could drive their business out. So, story time. So we've done this very well in the government, but and government's weird. It's really weird because how do you sell security services to a big government organization that doesn't have to answer to anyone really? But we've done this with some commercial customers, and recently a large automotive manufacturer came to us and said, hey, we really have this problem. So we're identity and access management, right? So we're always about authentication and authorization. And they're like, we want to be able to link customer profiles together because we've got families, right? And we want to put credit cards on accounts and allow parents to give their kids $50 a week that they can spend in the backseat of the car. Like, okay, so what do you want to do? So well, we just need to bring profiles together. We need to have a kid account and a husband and a wife account, and that'll be good. I'm like, okay, well, what else do you want to do? I'm like, well, I know your new radio's got Pandora in the car and Spotify in the car, and are you sharing credentials with parents' accounts to kids' accounts? Yeah, we'd love to do that. And what about, I just saw you release that thing with Starbucks where you put the credit card in the car, and now you're going to do it at McDonald's next. How are you doing that? Well, yeah, you're right. They're like, that's in this system over here. And then it was okay. Well, what else do you want to do with this? Well, we'd really like to be able to start managing preferences in cars. And then I said, okay. So now you've got relationships being built, and these preferences get set of, okay, parents want to draw a picture on a map, and your kid can't go out this picture, or your kid can't go above 55 miles an hour. All right, well, that's more authorization, that's more security, that's more API shit. Okay. So what about this? So I went back, what about this stuff? So I just bought a new car from you, and you have this really great new radio where I had to sit there and type my email address and my password into your screen. That sucked, right? You already have my phone paired with one of your vehicles. Why don't we make it so when I sit down and pair my phone, you know who I am? You go to that cloud, pull down my profile, and set all my radio stations for me. And set my HVAC for me, right? Because I like it at 72 degrees. And what happens when I go to the airport, because I travel every week, if you can push that profile down to the car, the rental car, and I listen to classic rock all the time. And you put all the classic rock stations wherever I just showed up, or say, hey, there's no classic rock here, your life's gonna suck. Here's $2 more to spend with Sirius. I'm gonna hit the button, right? But I'm gonna go to that rental car lot and look for that manufacturer's car. I'm doing good. I still haven't said who they are yet. You guys probably take the list and go look it up in the news, but and then use that, and they're like, wow, yeah, that's really smart. I go, well, that's more authorization problems. And what happens when my car rental expires and my phone's still paired there? And if you put my credit card in there, how are you going to get rid of that? That's hard. Well, I've got some ideas. We can build some APIs. We can work with the credit or the car rental companies. They can tell us when your reservation's supposed to expire. We can figure out based on, hey, guess what? You have a GPS in your car. It just came back to the lot that is the airport where I'm supposed to be dropping the car off. I can push something to the phone that says, do you want to disassociate? Wow, that'd be really cool. That's nifty. I said, and then what about something like this? What about, well, your cars really don't need a key anymore. You have this service where I can go rent a car, walk up to the car, and get in and drive off. I don't need a key. What if we took that and took it to the dealers? And we said, hey, in that parking lot over there, there's 200 cars from that manufacturer. 20 of them need an oil change this week. 10 of them need tire changes or rotations. We have all of those people. Let's send them a push message. We don't need to give them a discount because they'll pay for the convenience. But give them a message that says, hey, we're going to come pick up your car at 10 o'clock because we know you get to work by 9. Your car normally sits in the lot till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're going to tell you, we'll pick up your car at 10 o'clock and have it back by 4. And your oil change will be done. Your tire rotation will be done. The service tech will come to your car, take a stupid selfie, send it to you, and you authorize them to get in. And when it comes back, we'll send you another message that says, hey, your car is back and here's where it's parked, because your car, again, has a cell signal and a GPS location. Sucks when you're in a garage, but we'll figure that out too. But right, the same organization just announced trunk deliveries on Amazon, which I thought was interesting. As security professionals, this stuff's scary, right? And we know the power, but for a marketing professional, a business, it's a huge enabler, right? And through that whole thing, I sat there and, all right, so let's get 5-10 years out, right? Now we've built trust with people, right? We haven't lost your credentials. It's just time, right? We all know how security works. Everyone's going to get pwned someday. But at some point, you're not going to drive cars anymore, right? You're not going to own a car. You're going to be like, I need to be working at 9, the car shows up at 8, and it's a random car every day you just sit down in. And you sit down in, and you don't drive it anymore. You know what they're going to do for you in that car? Put a frickin' big-ass TV. And what they're going to do then is link that up to your Comcast account and go, hey, you paused. Let's pick a show that I don't watch. You paused Blind Spot last night at 3 minutes in and went to bed. Hey, you sit down in the car, Blind Spot pops up 3 minutes in because you're linked with your Comcast account and they've got all the content loaded in the vehicle for that day. And then you just drive to work and watch your TV show. But they're making money off of that, right? That's where the world's about to go with self-driving cars, and they're not making money selling cars. They're making by your butt in the seat and what you're doing in that car and making money of all the things you're doing in that car and who you're buying from while you're there. Whoa, big change in model. They have no idea how it's going to work, if it's going to work, but they got to do it. And they know that they need a platform to do it on. And they need something flexible enough to take care of everything. And they know they can't get hacked, because if they're the first to get hacked, they're dead, right? They will lose major customers, right? You look at Tesla. Every time some stupid Tesla hack comes out, which we all look at and go, that's not really a hack. That was dumb. They get all this press about it. The normal consumer, they're scared of a Tesla because of that, right? So we have to think. So essentially what we told them is, you have a trust problem. It's not an identity problem. It's not an account linking problem. You are asking people for a ton of information and a ton of trust, right? They are giving you pretty much an API key to their digital lives, right? Everything they've got is going into that platform. And they bought it and they're like, wow, we really do need something. And we can't store all this data all over the place. And every time somebody goes into a car, we need a way to have basically a security locker that comes down with all those keys and credentials and make sure that it's on the hardware device and can't be taken off. Wow, and let's have some encryption talks. And yeah, that wasn't going there. But they were like, yeah, we realize we have a problem. And from my side, I'm like, great. I just sold a centralized authentication platform, a centralized authorization platform, an auditable API gateway, a secure data store for credentials for users and APIs and devices, because every car has about 1,000 things that need to be secured inside of it. Their IoT platform, a SIEM, a logging platform, with events and actions that I can use to predict bad behaviors, but I can also take and expose to their marketing people, and it's all been funded. And they're getting cool shit to make themselves better in their mind. And I didn't have to scare them. And I didn't have to sell scare tactics of, you're going to be hacked, you're going to be pwned, you're going to be screwed, you're going to lose billions upon billions of dollars, because we don't have to have that talk anymore. We need to do a better job thinking about the business and how we can help them. So, the big things, what you should do. So we need to work with the people on the business side to figure out their desired outcomes. Every time, like every year, there's that CIO list that comes out after the all hands of, here's the top 5 things we're working on this year. And I would look at that list and go, trash, I don't care. We got other stuff to do. But now I look at that list and go, okay, how can we use those things to make sure we do a better job for security for an organization? Luckily, most of our customers, and at least the government side right now, there's a big move to the cloud, move to hybrid IT systems, and they realize they need these things put in place because their current things aren't working. But at the same time, like some of the Homeland groups, they do E-Verify. So if you've ever signed up for a job lately, first day you go in, you bring your driver's license, you bring your passport, you bring a third form of ID. I should know this because I run a business and have to do it. But you bring a third thing, and then I scan them in, I send them into the government. The government goes, yep, these are valid documents, and you can hire this person. They can keep working for you. I'm like, well, that's stupid. And then I put them in a filing cabinet somewhere, and guess what? That filing cabinet gets thrown out someday, and everyone's PII is all over the street. That's what happens. So, like, we went to DHS and said, hey, this is dumb. Well, so what we did is we turned it on its head and said, every time someone applies for a job, they don't need to give this information out. They don't need to make Xerox copies. You guys are doing the verification anyways, so why don't we just take the employee and have them give them directly to DHS and let DHS verify them once. And then when they go to apply for a job, the job gives them a code. And then that code, they go to an app or online and say, I agree to release my information to this organization. And then DHS tells them, yeah, they're good. We just got rid of a lot of shit laying around in a lot of filing cabinets that I've had my stuff stolen many times. I think I've got credit monitoring for life from the government at this point. I've had so many breaches. But it changes that way in the government, and the same things in our business, right? So when you work towards the outcomes of the business, they see you as valuable, right? They see you as helping them, enable them to do the next great thing. And we have an ability, because of all these cloud services, to do it faster and be much, much more responsive. And that gets us to the second step. And this is my favorite when I go into an organization. And it's kind of weird, but so along the lines of being proactive, sorry, I skipped over a part, but so on the proactive side, right, you can Now let's skip it completely because I already talked through it. But so break down the silos. This is the one that I do all the time. Is like I'll walk into a marketing department or an organization and just stare at the wall. Right? Because they all have like these big things up of here's our next marketing campaign, here's where we're going next, here's all the pretty pictures, and you just stare at it. And within about 5 minutes, someone comes by and is like, what? Hey, weirdo IT guy, what are you doing? I'm figuring out where we're going. Like, why are you here? No, what's this? Why is that happening? And they're like, well, we're doing this, and we're doing this, and we need to go here. And you're like, oh. Well, what about, have you thought about how you're going to do that with IT? Well, we'll tell them later. We're going to roll it out in like a couple months and we'll tell them later. I'm like, no, we need to get ahead of this. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about how you're going to collect credentials? Have you thought about, hey, you're partnering, this says you're partnering with Sirius and you're going to do this new service with them. How are you going to manage that? Yeah, we haven't thought about that. We're going to come to you in a couple weeks. All right, well, now I know. Let me show up in a week and show you something, right? And then you start building this relationship with them and they start seeing you as an enabler and being able to deliver fast because I've got a credit card too. I can go to AWS and spin something up overnight, and the thing I'm going to pick to spin up overnight is a lot more secure than whatever they're going to pick, right? So go to your marketing departments, go to your sales departments, figure out what they're working on, figure out what's coming next, and then come back and say, hey, I've got a solution for that. Right? Or, hey, I know you just bought that thing, but let's make it secure. Let's get that hooked up with the single sign-on system, right? Let's get account provisioning working because guess what? Right now, when one of you sales guys leaves, you don't turn off that CRM system. They're working for the competitor and coming back and taking all the data for 3, 6, 12, forever. I actually heard of an organization the other day that their CIOs, when they leave the organization, get accounts for life that never get shut off, and they have access to everything while they were employees. Like, they're working for the competitor, and they wouldn't do that. I go, yeah, you're idiots. But, I mean, there's rules like that out there, and those accounts don't get shut off. When we went into DHS, accounts were getting shut off for 6 months on contractors. Or people were in government roles and then went to work for a contractor and had access to the procurement data. So guess what? They know all the contracts coming out. They know the values of those contracts coming out. So guess what? The businesses they work for started making more money and winning contracts because they knew the number that had to go on the paper to win the work. And then they got shitty service because of it. Because it wasn't enough money to do the right thing. But that company got the work and they could play them for 3 years. So the other big thing I would say, increase automation. Learn to write code, learn to script, at a minimal, mess around with Python, right? Even if you're not a developer or a coder, learn at least the basics. We just saw the last presentation in here. Like, there's a whole WAF for AWS that it's completely scriptable Python, right? Very, very easy, very, very fast. Focus on the automation side, focus on learning to script. They see how quickly startups can spin up new businesses and new business lines. They're expecting the same from us. And unless we're investing in Chef and Puppet and Ansible and learning CloudFormation and being able to pull all these disparate pieces together quickly, they're going to go back to an outside consulting company like mine and ask for them to do it instead of you. Another big thing I would say is I've actually seen very large software contracts lately lost because organizations aren't building on Kubernetes. A lot of orgs are like just starting to go to the cloud, but the ones that have been there are really worried about Amazon being the behemoth and locking them in, and are actually forcing software vendors and products to run on Kubernetes so they can take it out of Amazon and move it to Google, take it out of Google and move it to Azure, blah, blah. But start learning those things, learn to script, learn to write simple code. The biggest thing with all these systems is it's going to become all about pulling the data together and as fast as possible, right? Because marketing is going to say, I want this, I want that, I want that. And if you can be there and say, I got it, right? And to you, it's like a bunch of shell scripts in the background that just run on a Lambda instance or on a Lambda function. You're a hero, right? And that's what they want, and somebody that can help enable their business. And then, as always, review processes. Review the shitty processes. When we started at DHS, it would take 2 weeks to push an emergency change into production. If I had a server that like Java went crazy and wasn't responding, it would take me 6 hours to get approval to reboot the service. Lots of organizations are still that way, not just the government. Start breaking those things down. Start making it easier to work with you. It's amazing once you, like for us, it's all security officers that seem to be the people that slow things down. When you just spend a little bit of time to reach out and teach them the new ways of doing work and help them work through it and show them how it can actually be more secure than what they're doing already, they will love you. And you will get away with a lot of stuff you shouldn't. So spend some time with those folks as well. So that's pretty much the gist of what I wanted to talk about. So thanks. And as I said, you guys all came here for a reason. If you have questions or problems, I'm more than happy to tell you how I've tried to slay them in the past and sometimes successful, and I can tell you how I haven't been to. So thanks. Anyone had questions or organizational concerns? All right. Well, thanks all.